Yeah, yeah. So I follow you. I've been following you on Instagram for about a year and a half, two
Okay.
years. Uh,
Yeah.
I've been watching your content. I particularly like the content about like the work-life balance of being a teacher and being an educator.
We can talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. We'll get to. Let me just tell you about myself a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, so I'm going into my second year of teaching. Technically, my third year. I did a year of student teaching with Cal State Fullerton. That's a really good program that I was working with, and I was a vocal performance major. I was going down the route of opera, and I was really successful at it. But as we all know, being a performer takes a lot of dedication,
Yeah.
and I don't come from like wealthy resources, so I made the switch, and there's a lot of teachers in CS like the CSUF program and the CSUF um, like area. So it was very easy for me to transition and kind of get advice and you know get uh, get down the pathway, and I've been doing that ever since. And I haven't looked back. I mean, I've been working in Covina. Now I'm working as a middle school choir teacher, and I work at two middle schools in Covina Unified. And I'm amazed by how rewarding the job is. And how wonderful it is to build connections with students and build like have kids that are like diehard choir kids to be engaged in the arts. I've always been
Yeah.
on the side of it as a student. Like I've always loved interacting with arts and singing, but I have really appreciated it as a teacher, just being on the other side of that. So that's
That's
now.
awesome. That's I'm so glad you had that experience where like on social media you see a lot of stuff like people are talking about their first year teachers and it was horrible and they're looking to change their career and they went to school for whatever 4 or 5 years and now they're like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm gonna be something else. And it sounds like your experience was different.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot about that. I mean, we hear a lot about burnout too with
Mm,
teachers
mm.
and with administrators and people like becoming like stars in the district, and then they burn out. And I really haven't had that thought of like I'm going to burn out from this. But I know people that just they stop teaching or they stop student teaching, and I'm very aware of it. And I just think I had really great students my first year. And I come from a great program. I come from CSUF where I learn how to get kids to buy in. So I think that I was given the tools to succeed. If I came from a program that was like I had done like a half semester of student teaching, or I didn't have enough classroom experience, or we had at CSUF they have we do like there's preliminary like paperwork that you have to do to be a student
Yeah.
teacher. There's also a year for the music program. You do a year of what we practicum, and we work one on one with our professor, and we do lesson plans, and we do mock lessons in the class, and it really prepares you for the student teaching experience. And then when you get to student teaching, you're like, oh wow, there's more stuff to learn. And then you get to the actual teaching part, and then you're like, whoa, there's more to learn. um, so I think that I am an example of a first year teacher who had a lot of success because of the tools and because of my experience. I've been doing music for a while, but I have heard, people, just like meltdowns or like they had to figure it out. And luckily I didn't have that experience.
That's awesome. And how are you prepared in the sense of getting students to buy in? Because that's a big thing.
Yeah. Like I've been reflecting about it this year, like or just the summer. Like um I've kind I this this summer or the past couple months, I've just been exercising like a madman, and trying to get back into shape. And I strained my calf. So
Oh.
word to anybody who's over the age of 25, take it easy. And this is coming from someone. I used to bodybuild. I used to mountain bike. Like I have been an active person in my life, but I still strain my calf. So it's, just word of advice. So I've been reflecting about this. Like, why were they so successful this year? Like, what was about these kids that allowed them to like buy into my class? Well, I think that I was authentically myself every day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I try to be, because I feel like as a teacher, if you're not yourself, the kids can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could see right there. They're like, "You're not being authentic. Why am I going to listen to you? Why am I going to pretend like what you're saying is true?" When you are authentically yourself, uh, people tend to be more, you know, uh, especially students. They tend to be more open to you. And then I guess, also I have a belief in my students. Like I want them to succeed. I'm affirming them and acknowledging the little steps that they make. And I also know repertoire and music that is accomplishable for students that I know is going to do well. Like last year we did Somewhere Over the Rainbow with the students. Most of my middle school students didn't even know what Somewhere Over the Rainbow was. They didn't even know the ukulele version. And to show them that piece got them to buy in really, really quickly. It was accomplishable, it was challenging enough for them, and it
Yeah.
got them to buy in. So there's a level of like doing things that's accomplishable for the student, believing that they're going to accomplish it, and acknowledging that verbally, and then also just being myself every day, not inauthentically acknowledging bad behavior, or just kind of being like having some alternative motive of, I want you to be good because I want to be looking good because I'm a music teacher. And sometimes music teachers, we get like that, where we want our students to look because it's a reflection, our ensembles are a reflection of ourselves. But I think that's why I've had so much success this year. uh, and I just have to continue. And I'm worried too. I'm like, I got to continue what I did last year. I'm just thinking like, what did I do right? What did I do right in the year? So,
So I just think that the reflection piece that you're explaining about how you're reflecting over the summer, that you're thinking about how you got students to buy in, and you're going through this whole thing in your own head about what worked, what didn't, and what am I going to do the following year so that we could be a success like we were the previous year.
mhm.
Just that piece right there is you're already setting yourself up for a good year.
Hmm.
Just for the reflection, just the reflection piece, because a lot of people might be like, you know what, this it's the off season. It's the off season. It's time to go to the beach. It's time to go for the parties, the clubs, the late nights, the sleeping late, the eating unhealthy. And you go through 2 months of that, right? And you don't think about school. You're like, forget school, forget the kids. It's all about me right now. And when you're explaining this, it reminds me of like I was a fan of Kobe Bryant.
Hmm.
He loses the championship, and then the next day he's in the gym. Next day he's in the gym trying to get ready for the next year, and so it's that piece right there that when you're talking about being successful the following year and you're bringing up concerns about, I don't know if I could repeat that. You're preparing yourself to repeat it just by reflecting and preparing and thinking, and
Hmm.
because not too many people, do that. So that
Right.
piece right there is a good piece. My question next would be like, well, why do some educators feel like they can't be their authentic selves?
Um. Well, before I answer that question, let me acknowledge what you said before about just a little side tangent. The
Mhm.
uh, oh man, about reflecting. I think that comes naturally. I feel like with musicians, because we constantly have to reflect, like, how do I make this more musical? How do I make this more accurate? How do I sound more blended? How do I sound, especially with the choir, you're constantly being self-reflective and reflective of how you are around other people. And I think it works in that way and on a different level as a teacher, because you're constantly trying to be self-reflective of like, is this like, am I singing to my students correctly? Are they getting it? Are they are they remembering it? Like if I teach them this one day, are they going to remember the next day? So I think self-reflection is huge. And I think that I over the summer, I've definitely divulged into like pulling all nighters and going to angel games and doing all these things. But at a certain point, my body is like, I want to go back to my purpose. Like I want to go
Yeah,
back to my thing, my sense of structure, and my
yeah,
being able to impact students because that's like invaluable. It's priceless. And
yeah.
I've come to know. So that's super awesome. But
Let
to
me
answer
let me let me jump in for a second. I'm gonna say too that I did my own indulging as well. You know, like I did my own indulging as
that's
well.
fine.
Everybody does their own indulge, but I can't go a certain amount of days. Like I there's a certain amount of days. Like if I go to on a vacation, right? Like the first day you're out, you're eating, you're drinking, and you're having a good time. Day one, and then it's like, okay, day two. How many days can I repeat this? How many days can I repeat this same thing over and over and over? There's a point where I'm like, my body doesn't feel good. My mind's not clear. It's not coherent. My
That's right.
thoughts are like slurred and they're just not good. And
Yeah.
so I'm not functioning highly, and I can feel it. And so as a point for me, it's like, okay, I've had my 2 or 3 days. It's time to get back on track. And then I'll go on track for a good amount of time. Then I'll go off track just a little bit. So
Mm.
I myself will do that, that indulging. But I always bring myself back on track because there's no way that I could just I guess because my vision or my goals or all the things I want to do, all my aspirations aren't aren't going to the beach and having a great time. That's not, I mean, that's fun for a certain amount of time. Going traveling and going, that's fun for a certain amount of time, but that's not my ultimate goal to, like, I
Mm.
have some sort of mission, some sort of vision here, and doing
Right.
these things just are like little releases, like little releases of stress, release of stress. All
Yeah.
right, let's get back on this train and move in the correct direction where I'm intended to be. So again, I fall off as well.
Yeah. And your body starts to feel murky, like you're saying, like
Mm,
the slurred thoughts, or if you're drinking, or if like you're kind of eating unhealthy, like your body starts to feel it, and you're not, we're not supposed to be like complete slobs, for 14 days in a row.
yeah, yeah,
That there's a like I don't know about you, but at the end of the day, after I get home from teaching and I get home from work, I'm like, that felt good.
mhm,
I did something and now I'm gonna reward myself. That sort of feeling of like, okay, I worked for a certain amount of time. I crafted, I took a step in the right direction today. There might have been 15 things that went wrong, but there were 16 things that went right. And I moved in the right direction. It felt good. When it's
yeah.
summertime, it's like I have all the reward, but
Mhm.
none of the buildup of consequence of working on stuff. And that's why I've try to keep myself busy and just like play video games, something that gives me some sort of or like I organize my closet, or something that kind of gives you some sort of structure for that reward.
Yeah, same here, man. This summer I was washing my car, I detailed my cars. I'd hit the gym. I'd have to find things to keep me going. I'd cook more often because I have time and I could do a full hour, 2 hour long in the kitchen and cook, and cook healthy meals. And because I have that time. Because if I don't do anything, I'm gonna sit on that couch and watch TV or scroll through social media, and then I feel horrible after 6 hours of nothing. And I'm like, man, I was just here, just wasting. I was rotting away on this couch right here. Me and my dog, just rotting away, on this couch right here. And I can't do it. It drives me crazy. I'm
Yeah.
such a like a ADHD type of person where I'm like, oh, I gotta move. I gotta do something. I can't stay here. I gotta, you know.
Right.
So
There's pros and cons of that because you're always, wanting to figure out, something to do. You're always trying to be productive, but there's also a sense of like sometimes it can be hard to relax. You have to give
oh,
yourself license to
100%,
that.
100%.
And it's not that I want something to do with my students because that met a natural ending, but having something to do over the summer that is productive. That's why people, workshops are great, or going to festivals, or going to different things that kind of fill up that time in a productive way. You asked me a question before,
The
Uh,
question was, why do teachers feel as though they got to not be their authentic selves? Or why do educators in general, a principal, a counselor,
oh
why do they
man.
feel like they can't be themselves?
Oh, I think that I don't know. Why don't people want to feel like themselves? I think that if they don't feel like they want to be themselves, my first thought is that they don't accept themselves. So they can't show up and be themselves because they don't accept themselves. They don't love themselves enough, and that translates to them being a professional and being a person outside in the world. Like, this isn't authentically me because I'm not in love with this version of me, you know? I think that's why deep down, I think there's also a level of like maybe some professionals like are on a level of like this is all it is, you know? This is all I want teaching or counseling or whatever I want it to be because I don't want it to be any more. I don't want it to be any more than surface level.
Yeah. And I guess that's okay, I guess, right? But I feel like when you're trying to make those connections or those relationships with students and you're not being your authentic self, that's where it becomes a little difficult. Because, like you were saying earlier, students could easily read through somebody being inauthentic, somebody being a little fake, somebody saying something they don't really mean, or
Mhm.
acting a certain way where that's not how they really act, or using vocabulary that's not the vocabulary you would usually use. I
Yeah.
understand we're in a school and we can't use all vocabulary, but like use something that's right up your lane, your alley. Talk like the way you would normally talk. And
Mhm.
but you made a lot of good points where like you have to be comfortable with yourself to be able to express yourself. You have to be able to love yourself to be able to express who you really are. And if you don't have that self love, you don't have that confidence, you can't be your authentic self. And the only way you could be your authentic self is to practice being your authentic self. You have to practice this. You have to be able to sit and be yourself and laugh at goofy things and um be cringy and do all those things that make you feel uncomfortable. Those that's who you are. And I don't know. I feel like it took me a while to be my authentic self um amongst adults.
Mhm.
Amongst kids, it seemed easy. Like, it just seemed easy. I started teaching when I was 22 years old.
Okay.
So when I was 22 years old, I was first year teacher. I'm around little first grade students. That's my first gig. And man, it was just easy to be a kid. It was just easy to be like one of them. I'd have puppets. I'd do a little puppet show. I had this little skeleton, and we'd play with like this little skeleton puppet show thing we do. And
Mhm.
I'd read books, and I'd be all animated, and I would just be like a kid with them. Like, let's be animated. Let's be a kid. And it was easy to be myself around kids. When I was around my colleagues, the other teachers, I felt like I couldn't be my authentic self. Like, I had to be an adult. I had to straighten up, and everybody was older than me. Everybody was in their 30s and 40s, and I was like in my 22, and they saw me as just a kid. So I felt like I couldn't be really myself, and it took me a while for me to find a good balance of just being myself. Um, but I think that that's just the best card you could play. The best advice you could give somebody: just be yourself in the classroom.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I actually relate to you in like being your authentic self with the other adults because I do feel like I do struggle with that being a younger educator. I think that's one of the struggles of being a young teacher because most teachers are like in their 40s, they're in their
Mm.
50s. There's a generational sort of divide there, and sometimes it's hard for me to relate to older teachers. But I mean, I don't necessarily say I don't feel comfortable I'll ever be myself, but I do feel there's a level of that. It's like, oh, like I'm still figuring out what being a professional teacher looks like in a professional setting. And you're right, with the kids, it's much easier to be. For me, I mean, for other people struggle with that. But you can't. I guess it's just a different hat you got to wear. As a teacher, I'm with the other educators. All right, here we go. I'm with the students. Okay, here we go. I'm with the parents. Here we go. I'm with the,
Yeah. Yep, the admin. Here I go. Everything. You gotta switch that hat off. I remember being playing Pokemon cards with the kid. I had on my own deck. We played Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Pokemon cards and all these card games, and
that's
we would talk video games, and I was like, we would. I remember when I was in this middle school when Clash of Clans first came out, and we were like playing Clash of Clans, and then Clash Royale on the on the phone came out, and we were playing Clash Royale, like just like I don't know, it just made it easy to connect with the kids. It was just easier to connect with the kids. So
Mhm. That's
yeah.
cool.
So how do you build those relationships? Then it sounds like you have good relationship with the students you work with. So,
Yeah, I mean, how do I do it? I mean, it's all I feel like I talked to this to the band teacher at the school. It's like each student needs a different level of of your personality. Like some students, they need more of a cautious, you need to be more careful. There's other students where you can just, especially in middle school, you can just flame them, keep on flaming, making fun of them, and that's their form of love. Like there's this one student, I'm a misser. She was an amazing student. And I built a great relationship with her, and she came into my class every single day ready to sing. And she was she had struggles in science and English. She told me, she's like, Mr. Melendez, i don't I don't know how, I don't understand those classes, but when I come in here, I know what to do, so I built a great relationship with her academically and emotionally. And I would flame her all the time. She would be joking all the time, and I could just flame her and she'd take it, but she invites it. Certain students do it. When I was a student, I would invite that too. You'd flame me, make fun of me in the class. I loved it. I wanted the attention. With other students, it's a much different, you can't, if you do that, oh man, you just burned a bridge with that kid. Or,
yeah,
you pay a compliment to the kid. I don't know what to do with this compliment. That's too much. That's too much.
yeah,
That's too much for me. But if you go up to them, hey, I just wanted to say, I really appreciate all the, like, if you have an individual compliment to them, that doesn't shut them down. Then they go, oh, wow, he noticed me. But if you
yeah,
notice them, like each student, I feel like any other person that you're dealing with in your own personal relationships, they, they have their own specific you know, types of love language, types of communication. They might be more introverted. They might be more extroverted. And I think as a choir teacher, I've had to learn, like, okay, like this student can't, like, I can't perform this action with this student. I can't flame them. Okay, let me pull them aside, or even disciplining them. With the student that is more out there goofing around, you can be really direct with them, really, really, depending on the student, really direct with them, and they get it, and they change their behavior. But then another
yeah,
student, I said to one student, I say, hey, can you sing out more? She just started bawling.
yeah, yeah,
you know and with, especially in choir, relationships are super important for the students. I mean, in music in general, it's super vulnerable, especially middle school. I mean, choir is already a niche, and kids are, they feel, they, because they're singing in front of people, it's a vulnerable thing. And in our culture, we're like, oh my God, you're singing, oh no, like this is only for a certain dedicated and then it's in middle school too, so they're
yeah,
extra just like, oh man, if I do this, my world's gonna end, or this is gonna happen.
yeah,
So you have to like, for me, you have to create an environment for everybody to be like, just be yourself. I don't care if whatever you love, whatever you look like, I don't care. As long as you sing in my class and you're not misbehaving, you're not disrespecting me or anyone else, you're great. You're doing good, Um, and I think creating that, and then also understanding, like, people want to feel important, and they have different ways of feeling important, and you got to figure that out with each student. And we're all every educator is doing that in every classroom. They're trying to figure out, okay, let me push this button. Oh my God, I just created
yeah,
an explosion. you know, or let
yeah,
me, if I contact their parents, what's going to happen? Oh, that did nothing. Okay, well, let me send them the admin. Okay, that did nothing. Let me have a
yeah,
personal conversation with them. oh wow, that changed it, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, but you're trying to not everybody is gonna be not everybody's gonna be the same. Not everybody's gonna be we talk about UDL and stuff like that. That works in a social emotional way too. Not everybody's the same about how they process emotions, how they process information. Not everybody's the same. And that happens in music. You have somebody that's really good by ear, but they don't know how to read well. You have someone that reads well, but that doesn't really know how to it's very similar in those ways. So I think as a music teacher, you kind of have to create those things. I don't know if all those things make sense, you
It,
know?
it it made perfect sense. It made perfect sense. You have to be somebody different to different people, and like one way, like you're saying, I'm gonna act a certain way with this one student who I could flame and roast because we're good like that. You
Right.
know, I could look across the whole room
Right.
and see that person way over there and give him an eye or give him something or point at something, and I got him. And I can't do that with everybody, and that's that relationship that you have with certain people, and others, like you're saying, is you got to take a different approach. You can't go that hard. You can't. You just and sometimes you just got to be a polite guy, and be kind to certain people. And one of the things that I want to bring into a school environment is I just want people to feel comfortable when I'm in the room. I want people to feel comfortable when they're sharing the same space as me. I want them to be themselves and be comfortable. I think that's important. When I was a classroom teacher, that's the feeling I was going for. Was like, okay, yeah, I'm the teacher, but I want you to feel comfortable in this classroom. I want you to feel safe in this classroom. I want you to feel that like you're loved for and cared for. And in this room, everybody just feels a level of comfort in here, and we're gonna make sure everybody feels that way throughout the 50 minutes that we're in this period,
Mhm.
and then we're all good. And we're not gonna take it too. I'm not gonna be too overboard, and I'm not. We're gonna find this balance that works for as many people as we possibly can in this classroom. And so that's my goal, is just to make sure that whatever space I'm in, the students feel comfortable. It's a little more difficult with adults. I would say, as an administrator, you walk into a classroom, they already have this preconceived notion of administrators and what they do. And, so they always have this idea. And if you go to, I'm starting new schools this year, and you go to a new school environment and they don't know you and you don't know them. And so it's just like, okay, well, let's build these relationships again.
Mhm.
Um, and then for me, here's another thing, an added level of complexity here. A lot of people know me and seen me on social media when it comes to education. So if you're a teacher or you're an educator, you might have seen my stuff. So if I go to a school and there's like, I don't know, 30, 40 teachers, chances are there might be one or two that's seen me, and then they have a preconceived idea of me, whether they like me or not. And
Mhm.
so that brings another level of complexity. So
Does
like today,
that help you, or
I
does that
don't I don't think it helps me.
Oh, really?
I don't think it helps me. Um, I don't think it helps me. I feel like when I walk into, like today, there was two schools in this auditorium, and they're having a training, and I was being introduced as one of the new assistant principals at this one school. So,
Mhm.
but as I'm walking around, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, I felt uncomfortable because
Mhm.
I don't know who saw my stuff, if they've seen my stuff, what kind of ideas they have about me already, and that messes with my interactions with them at the very beginning, because that's going through my mind, and I'm like, oh, how you doing? My name is, and but it's still going to the back of my mind, and um, yeah, so that's another level of complexity when it comes to this whole social media thing and introducing myself.
That's
So,
a I'm that's the thing about social media and teacher accounts too, is because you already have a public facing profession. Like we already have, we're already within, the purview and the communities that we serve in. My question, I've thought about starting a social media account myself just for teaching, but
mhm.
for you, like you're saying that it messes with your like is that something that you goes on internally? Or is that something that comes up, like, you'll be interacting with someone, and then they start kinda criticizing you on your social media, or they bring something up, and you're like, "Well, that was a little weird of an interaction." Like, where does
Yeah.
that come from for you?
There's been, I've gotten feedback from people like, "Oh, you're the TikTok guy. You're the guy on TikTok or whatever." Um, I've gotten like, "Oh, I love your stuff. I love your stuff, and I follow you, and I think that you have some great ideas." And I get that, and you know, I I don't know, like some of the stuff that I put out on social media is not what everybody agrees. Like when I say stuff like you shouldn't, I say stuff like students with difficult behavior follow people over rules. I say, right, build a relationship with them first. Some people don't believe that. When I say you probably shouldn't kick out the most difficult students, you want to build relationships with them. Some people don't believe that. When I say
Mhm.
you lose your power if you start to kick out students and let somebody else deal with that student, you're gonna lose your power, and that student's gonna lose respect for you because you keep pushing them away. Not everybody believes that. I don't believe in suspending students all the time or expelling students. That's not my. But there are
Right.
people there like, let's suspend them, let's expel them, let's get rid of them. And so I'm on one end of the spectrum, and there's a whole different end of the spectrum, right?
I could
This
see
is
I could see how that clashes with your own campus, staff, where they have a different perspective of how
yes,
discipline happens because you are the admin. Now, if you were saying that as a teacher, they may be like, "Oh, I disagree with you," but then they feel like, "Oh, this directly impacts me," or this, you don't know what you're saying. But
yeah,
this is based on, years you've been teaching and in administration for years, and you've seen the shift. I mean, we've
uh,
seen, even I'm first year, second year teacher. I've seen the shift of education, and I grew up in a different side of education. Now
yeah,
it's, especially in the state of California, it's a little bit more. I remember people getting expelled or suspended over very, very small things.
yeah.
Back when I was going to high school, I think, some guy got expelled for, I don't know, making a threat to a different student in middle school. Like, there's
Mm,
just there's different things that happened back then where it was. I think that some teachers have gotten accustomed to extreme rules and extreme expectations that we need to hold everybody by this standard. But
yeah,
I think that there's room because people, you if it also depends on the consequence. Obviously, if they're starting fights, if they're bringing weapons to school,
yeah.
that's an extreme version. But if they're causing commotions in class, I would evaluate that as they're yelling at the waiter at at Wendy's, the way they're yelling at somebody at Olive Garden, and
Yeah,
you learn, like, I get expelled for that? No,
yeah.
I lose social weight, I lose social consequences to that, so,
Yeah, I just
uh,
want to say that I do follow district policy, so I just want to make that clear.
yeah, yeah,
I follow district policy, so
cover your bases here. Yeah,
let me
no,
make it clear. I follow district policy. But you should. You know what, this whole social media journey, it all started back, in right after COVID, when during COVID time. And I was like, yeah, let me just, everybody's doing it. Let me go ahead and do it. And you start putting out ideas, and then it grows bigger and bigger. And that's kind of how it happened. It was just like for fun. It was just for fun. I was just out there doing things for fun. And yeah, that's how it started. And now it feels more like I should just continue to do it. Like I feel, and like I should just there's I feel like I help people, and it's a good thing, and I should just continue to do it. I should continue to do it and continue to help as much as I possibly can.
mhm,
Um, that's how it feels now, and I feel like I want to have fun with it when I do it. So I try to do less formal things. I
huh,
don't
okay,
want it to be so formal. When I first started, I was doing all kinds of crazy edits, and I was doing and that took a long time to do all that. And now it's just like, okay, let me just pick up my phone and let me just talk, and let's do
mhm,
that.
mhm.
So, but you should give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a great benefit of doing it. You expand your, the knowledge that you in the networking that comes with social media. I just worry about like, we hear about these teachers that post one thing on social media and then, oh, guess what? You're fired and congratulations, you have a job and you've gone viral and all these things. So I've been hesitant to, like we had an
Yeah,
entire week of that, of learning, of like, this is what happened in this district in Newport Mesa. This is what happened. And I was like, whoa, all it
yeah,
takes one or two things, and then it just can just a community can just.
yeah. Yes, you're right. You're right. And that's the double-edged sword here, like you're trying to help people, but at the same time you put yourself out there and you become vulnerable because you put yourself out there. And so that's a double-edged sword right there. And it goes through my mind, especially as I become more like before I was naive. I was
Mhm.
naive about social media. Like I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And then I was like, "Oh, I gotta stop being this naive. You gotta be careful." So
Mhm.
it's just it's one thing that I like about social media is I do like having conversations with people like you. I do
Mhm.
like having doing the podcast and having like because I when do I ever sit with somebody for about an hour and talk about a deep conversation about school and education and classroom I don't have this conversation with many people.
Right, that's outside of your inner circle, because of course,
Yeah.
you talk with it with people at your school sites. You talk with people maybe you've kind of grown up with the profession, your friends that you've made through the profession, but the social media kind of expands the people that you talk with. And I think it's a healthy thing that we engage in these conversations, because, something that you're saying today, because iron sharpens iron. Anything,
Mhm.
the way you're communicating, or the way you brought up, like, you're self-reflecting, like, that gives me a different perspective. Oh yeah, like, I have been self-reflecting. I should feel more confident about this year. I shouldn't be as worried. That gives me some, like, reaffirmation. If we hadn't met today, maybe I wouldn't have thought about it in that light.
Mhm.
So i think
Mhm.
i think that's a big benefit of social media, and that's something that I think the cons of, like, yes, people have a different purview of you. Yes, like, there might be, you could get flagged for inflammatory things, but as long as you're, wholeheartedly putting out content that's to be, best for the kids, best for your
Yeah.
communities, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And obviously, you connect with people that have similar interests, or who are inspired by you, or that you can work with, or, I thought about this too. You probably know more people now. If you were to move into a different district and you said, oh, I need a
Yep.
science teacher. Oh, I can call on this person. I talk with her, we really connected, you know
Mhm.
so I think that there's a lot of benefits to social media, but I'm curious about that, because, I'm thinking about, because I have friends who run social media accounts, and, I'm like, do I want to run one? Do I want to run? But I want to. The other thing too is, like, you, as a teacher, as an educator, you have so many ideas, you have so
Yeah.
many things you want to talk about. There's so many things that you want to, but you can't ever get to it, because there's just not enough time in the school year, and also you're gonna drive yourself nuts if you're doing it to the kids all the time. There's only so much avenue and funneling of the ideas that you can do. Whereas social media, there's an endless amount of, you can just, like, let's talk about classroom management, let's talk about social media, let's talk about, whatever. So I think there's,
Mhm.
I don't. I think that there's great benefits to it, and I like what you're doing on social media. I'm really behind it. I love again, the work life balance. I think we should have more of that. As
Let's talk
teachers.
about that. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the work life balance. I'm a huge I totally believe in work life balance, but I feel like in the classroom, if you don't have your systems and procedures in place, then your life will feel chaotic, right?
Mhm.
So if you started your year as an educator and you don't have a system for students to line up, and to enter your classroom. And then you don't have a morning routine system where they're putting their backpacks here and the noise level is this level and there's a warm up on the board or there's some other. You have breakfast in the morning in the classroom, and who's putting the breakfast out, who's putting it, who's bringing it back to the cafeteria, who's doing all these things, what's the system in place. When they're trying to talk to you, is it they raise your hand? Is there a number system? If they have to use the restroom, what are they doing? How are they telling you that they have to use the restroom? Do they interrupt you as you're talking? You have all those systems in place. If you have those systems in place, you could breathe. You feel comfortable. You feel calm, right? These are emotions and feelings that you need to have in the classroom, right? These calm, comfortable, confident, not
Mhm.
chaotic, disorganized, not that, because now you're like frazzled and something little frustrates you, like, so you have to make sure that you got those systems in place out the gate. Prior to that, for me, I wake up at 4:15 every morning. I go 4:15 every morning. I get up. I
That's
I take my dog for a short little walk out here because he has to pee. So I'll take him outside. Going outside for 10 minutes at 4:25 in the morning when it's cool and quiet and calm. It's peaceful out there and I'm out there for it's like almost meditation to
mhm,
take your dog out there. There's nobody out there. Me and my dog,
mhm,
quiet, just
mhm,
walking, coming back. All right, it's time to get ready. I get ready, go to the gym. My wife, we go to the gym at 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. Or we're walking the neighborhood for 2.5 miles
mhm,
for an hour, right? So then I'm feeling good already. I'm already feeling grounded already. Boom. On a good day, I'll come home, I'll get my coffee, and I'll read on a good day. Some days I'm not reading. Some days I'm like looking at garbage on social media. Like, let me drink my coffee and let me scroll for 10, 15 minutes as I drink my coffee. And some of the things I'm looking at are good and some of the things are ridiculous. And, but my goal is to read, but sometimes I don't. Take a shower. So I've already done all of this stuff at the beginning of my day to prep myself. I'm grounded. I feel good. I ate a little breakfast. I got some protein in. I'm feeling good. Go to school.
mhm.
This is where you have your systems in place. This is where you have to have those systems in place. And if you don't have your systems, you're gonna have a terrible. This is where your day could crash right here. So you gotta make sure you have those systems in place. And that's not to say that you're not gonna have rough days if you have systems in place,
Yeah.
but it will go better if you have your systems in place. And then you just practice being a good person. Let's just say that you just practice being a good person. Um, you keep safety in the classroom. You just keep everybody safe. You
Mhm,
you demonstrate love, and you boost people's self-esteem. You boost people's self-esteem in that classroom. And then you leave. You leave when you leave, and you get home and you have dinner with your family, whatever you have to do, right? Whatever you're doing, you have dinner with your family, or you eat. I come home, I eat my dinner. Usually I'll eat, I'll sit down on the couch. Maybe I'll watch maybe like 30 minutes of TV. Then it's time to walk my dog again. And it's about a good mile walk. It's about a good half an hour or whatever. So I'll walk my dog again. I'll come back. I'll think of ideas on social media. So I'm thinking. So I'm on my computer. I'm like, hey, this is a good idea. Let me go deeper into this idea. You know, um, so I'll do that, and then I'll stretch later on at the end of the night. I'll do some mobility, take my shower, get ready for work, and that's kind of it. And it's this idea that you have to have things in place. You have to have peace. You have to consume good food, good water, good media. You have to also take breaks. You have to find your peace, your calm,
I
create
agree.
calm, peaceful areas in your room, in your life, wherever it is, spaces that, like, this space is a calm space for me. This, my podcast setup, this to me is my calm space right here. I got my lights right here, my camera, my phone right here. I'm in the comfortable chair. My lighting's I like the lighting in the back, and I just feel calm. And so it's just creating those spaces where you feel good about yourself and good about what you're doing. Um, and that's my whole day. And I think that my day reflects the mission that I'm shooting after. It's yeah, I'm working, but I have a mission, and all of this encompasses my mission of who I want to be, what health level I want to have, what temperament I want to have. How do I create a space where when I enter it, people feel comfortable? How do I create a podcast where a guy I've never met before, and we're sitting, I don't know, we're sitting in two different areas, and he feels comfortable as we talk to one another. How do I create that space? And so that's, to me, that's what it's all about, is just that's finding. I don't know if you understood what I'm saying. I'm talking a whole lot here, but
Yeah, I think that the like what you're describing, in other words, is that your sense of peace, your sense of routine, and your sense of well-roundedness in your life creates a good work-life balance for yourself, that you can go into the work day and feel like you did things for yourself the night before, the
Mhm,
afternoon before, the morning before, and then you
mhm,
go to that space and you say, "Hey, I'm gonna practice being a good person. I know what I'm trying to do. I know what I'm trying to achieve. I know what my goal is as an educator. I'm gonna try my best to achieve that today." I
yeah,
think I think that's what you're saying is through those things that bleeds into that. Be
mhm,
because if you don't have those routines, if you don't have peace, if you don't have these things that you're doing for yourself, this self-advocacy of just, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna walk out my dog, I'm gonna say go hi to my wife in the morning, I'm gonna have my morning coffee, I'm gonna read in the morning. By giving basically what you're saying is by giving yourself those things, you're coming into the classrooms, you're coming into campus a well-rounded person and way
mhm,
more calm too, especially when you have a student that is just like super just not on a good, their their nervous system is out the
yep,
gate. Teacher's nervous system is out the gate, or something happens where, you're having something happens at the assembly and kids are acting disruptive and they say something inappropriate and it, whatever the case may be, whatever crap you have to deal with throughout the day, the stuff that you do in your routines, the stuff that create your peace, you can always return to. You can always return to, this is where I find my peace. This is where I find my community. Or maybe it's a friend that you call, or maybe it's a game that you play. Different
yep,
people, you know, have their different things. So I think that's what you're saying.
yeah. That's about it right there. That's you got to do all of. I mean, if you just mentioned a good point. You take a student who probably, let's say, in a house where it's really loud and there's multiple people living in one room, and they can't get any sleep, and people are on their phones, and TV's on, and they're trying to get some sleep, and there's no space to do their homework in their house, or it's too loud, and they come, and there's not lack of food, and here they are in your classroom, and they're not like you, where you got sleep, and you got a workout in, and you read a book, and you drank your coffee, and they're just going in there hot. They're going in there hot, and
Well,
you have to deal with that.
yeah, it's wild to think like because it is wild to think from a teacher's perspective or admin's perspective, the type of life balance that you have. I'm reading my book, I drink coffee, I
Yeah,
walk my dog, and some of these kids are walking in 4 hours of sleep. Their mom just yelled at them at school. They packed
yeah,
them freaking Lunchables. Their dads and out like all
yeah,
these problems they're bringing into the classroom, and that's why you have to have your inner peace as an educator. That's why you have to have a work life balance, or do things, or at least like if you're calm, collected, and organized. And some people work like this. I've people that I was surprised with at first. I'm like, sheesh, you're going to the club on a random Tuesday, and then you get up and teach in the morning.
yeah,
Okay, that's cool.
yeah,
That's you. You could do that. That's not me. I would feel really chaotic if I did that. But people do that,
yeah,
and that's where they find their peace. They're like, I'm working hard. I'm being present with the kids. I'm being a leader for the kids. I'm going to do whatever I want after I'm done working. And people work like that, and you have to find your peace. And that's part of the struggle, I think, for a lot of educators is finding things that really relieve them of the emotional and physical stress it is to be a teacher. You know, I've
Yeah.
been I've been searching for that all summer. Like, okay, what if I did this? Okay, I didn't really like that. I do this. The biggest solution for me was walking. I love walking in nature.
Mhm.
Favorite thing was after a work day, I come home, get off at 3, drive home. You know, be home by 3:30, maybe a little bit earlier, and then I just put on my exercise clothes and I go walk in nature. That and I blast music or I listen to podcasts. Like that was my piece, and that was so. It was just like, oh, I get to self reflect, think about the day. But because my calf has been strained, I haven't been able to do that. You know, so my sense of peace has been all over the place this summer. But I've been substituting it. Like I've been going to Angel. I've been like, all right, let me like sit down and watch an entire baseball game. Let me play Minecraft. Let me read a
Mhm.
book. Let me go to a coffee shop and just sit there for a couple hours and just plan stuff, and finding different avenues of peace. So that's been great. I've been like, I don't really like that. That probably is not going to make me feel better, but this will feel make me feel better. So, I'm all about the work life balance. And for middle school, that's part of the reason why I'm in middle school is because, like, I'm not it's different than high school. It's different. I'm not expected as a music teacher. I'm not expected to put on, not expected to put on all these things at the high school level and have musicals and this and these
Yeah.
con. Yeah, like I thought about it last year. I'm like, did I ever perform on the weekend? Never,
Yeah.
never performed on the weekend. And I think that's important. I think all K through 12 educators should be like that. I don't know. That's just me. I think people would be more sane. I think every time I talk to a high school teacher, they're just like, oh my God. Oh, I can't handle it anymore. I want to switch age groups. And it makes me worry because I want to teach high school eventually, but it just seems like they're burnt out. We need to restructure how high school is, and restructure what that looks like so we can, better benefit the teachers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. But that was my rant.
Walking's been, I haven't, I saw this one video on YouTube about walking 15,000 steps a day. So I was like, let me try walking 15,000 steps a day. And I'm not losing all this weight because I'm walking, but what did happen was it helped me sleep better. And to me, my sleep is always been historically terrible, terrible sleep.
Mhm.
But if I walk 15,000, anywhere like 12,000 to 15,000 steps, I'm I'm beat.
Yep.
I'm beat. And so, like I'll lay down and I'll fall asleep the whole night. I'll get usually there are times when I'll wake up at 2 a.m. and can't go back to sleep. There are times when I wake up at 3 a.m. can't go back to sleep. I'm like, this is horrible. This is horrible. But I've been walking and I've been able to sleep all night, and that's been a plus for me. As so I don't know, walking's been a great for me. fifteen
Yeah.
thousand steps.
15,000 steps is, I was doing 10,000 steps, and that was already, that was a lot, but 15,000 steps, that's 5,000 steps, I think, is like 2 miles.
Yeah.
And then that makes it, that's
It
like six
it's like
miles.
6.5 miles, just about like 6.5 miles a day, something
Yeah,
like that.
for me, it took me about hour and a half, 2 hours to do 10,000 steps. And if you're doing that every day, I mean, I would say my sleep was better too. I haven't been sleeping well. It makes sense that I haven't been sleeping well because I haven't been walking as much.
Mm.
Walking is super, super important for cardiovascular health, for weight loss. If you wanted to lose weight really easily, you can start walking. It's not a super intense exercise. I always recommend walking. I wish I could just, inject something in my calf and I could go on a walk and, just go on a hike or something. I've never felt like I'm like, once I'm healed, I'm never gonna take walking for granted.
Yeah.
Long distances. I'm not like paralyzed, but just like
Yeah.
walking, it's like a struggle right now to like, walk places. But yeah,
Right
walking
on.
is super important.
Well, David, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We're getting close to that end of the hour right here. It's about 55 minutes here. Toward the end of my podcast, I always ask my guests what are some tips they give to future young educators, in your case, future first and second year educators. What kind of tips would you give them?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, John. I really appreciate the time that we've spent talking to each other. This has been great, um, and yeah, this has been fantastic. So, I guess in terms of advice for first or second year teachers, going into my second year, um, I think if I'm giving advice to somebody who's starting teaching this year, going into student teaching, or is even thinking about being a teacher, people are at the front of whatever you're doing. Whatever you're doing as a teacher,
Yeah.
it's a people business, and you just got to focus on that aspect and making people feel important and making people feel, like you said, comfortable and welcome when you're around. And
Yeah.
you have to know people's names. You got to know things about them. Otherwise, you have no social capital. You have no especially with students, you got to ask them what they like, what they, get to know them, not on an intimate level, but on a, I'm teacher and you're student and I want to get to know you better. And I think when you open that up as a teacher and you make people feel important and you get to know people's names really fast and you get to know them and their personality and their quirks, that things working with people is so much more easier. And the daunting task of, oh my God, like, I have to, go and teach people. It's much easier when you know everybody's name in the room. It's
Yes.
much, it's much easier. It's much easier when you know who your administrator is and what they like to do on the weekend. It's so much more easier because if you're imagine this, you walk into a room and you start teaching people, you have no idea what their names are, you've built no relationships with them. Okay, you might be effective. They might listen to you. They might go, "Wow, I learned a lot." Take that same group, teach them for a week, get to know everybody's names, get to know everybody, just about everybody, what they like to do. Try to. You will have so much more social capital with that group. That
Hmm.
group love you. That group will, like, they will cherish you because what you're showing, especially if you're, because as a teacher, we are a representative of our community. We're a representative of our subject area, but also of representative of a caretaker of the community. And by getting to know people's names, by making people feel important and making them feel like they are making a difference, not just you. But, you are making a difference from singing in this class. You're participating in community and culture. You're increasing your culture by being here right now. That importance is crucial to building any sort of culture or community. Any community that you go into, the leader who's leading it, they know everybody's names. I hope they do. Most people do. Most good leaders are people who know people's names, know things about them, uh, work well with other people, understand their quirks. That's the key to a lot of stuff. It's not about what you teach necessarily.
Yeah.
That can be that's out the window. Like, you could teach them rocket science and they're connected to you because
Yeah.
people remember how you make them feel. I mean, the
Hmm.
content is important. Obviously, if I went out there and everybody sang it out of tune, they'd be like, "Hey, we need to get another choir teacher," right? The content needs to be there. You need to be solidified in that, but you also need to be solidified in how you value important relationships and making people feel important, making people feel like there's something greater. Because I think that I'm a big, we live in the craziest time, of information, of technology. We've had an an exponential scale of of just having access to things,
Hmm.
and I think it's more important than ever to connect with people. It's
Yeah.
more and more evident to make people feel important that we don't know everything. We still need to figure some stuff out as human beings, and there's still stuff that we need to learn. So, we don't know everything. We need to connect more. So, that's my advice. I mean, that was my tangent,
Yeah.
but
Well, yeah, that's good, David. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for being on the podcast. It was a great conversation. I liked how we talked about that work life balance. It needs
yeah,
to be talked about, and thank you so much for being on the podcast.
yeah. Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much.